It started on one of those lazy afternoons where nothing seemed urgent. The weather was warm, almost sleepy, with the sun bleeding through the blinds in golden slants. My name is Rachel Morgan, and I had just finished organizing the last shelf in the garage when I noticed the loose hinge on the bottom cabinet. It wasn't anything major, just a slight wobble, but something about it annoyed me. Maybe it was because everything else was finally in order, and that one imperfection ruined the satisfaction I had worked for. I could have fixed it myself. I wasn't completely helpless, but the truth is, I had another option. That other option had a name: Caleb Harper. Caleb was the 24-year-old son of my best friend Lisa. He'd just moved back to the neighborhood and was helping his mom renovate her patio. He used to mow lawns during high school and had a quiet way about him. Never loud, never cocky, just steady and respectful. He was polite every time we passed each other, offering to help with things I didn't even ask for. Maybe that's why I thought of him when I looked at the broken hinge. I texted Lisa first, just to be courteous. "Hey, is Caleb around? I need help with something in the garage." She responded within minutes. "Sure. He's just outside finishing up some painting. He'll head over." 15 minutes later, I heard the knock. 3 soft taps. I opened the door, and there he was, taller than I remembered, his baseball cap backward, and a pair of worn-out jeans with paint stains across the knees. He smiled, holding a toolbox in one hand. "Hey, Miss Morgan. You needed something fixed." I don't know why, but the way he said it made my stomach flutter. "Please, just Rachel." I corrected him. "Come in. It's just a loose hinge on the bottom shelf in the garage." He followed me in, walking with that calm, unhurried stride that somehow commanded attention. I watched from the doorway as he knelt down, opened the box, and carefully pulled out a screwdriver. The muscles in his forearms flexed with every turn of his wrist, and I found myself completely mesmerized. It wasn't just how he moved, it was the quiet focus in his expression, the way his brows furrowed slightly as he adjusted the hinge like it was something precious. I told myself to walk away. I had laundry to do, emails to answer. Something, anything, but I didn't move. I stood there, arms crossed, pretending to examine the other shelves while really just watching him. When he leaned further forward to grab another tool, his shirt lifted slightly at the back, revealing a toned strip of skin I hadn't expected to see. It caught me so off guard, I had to look away. "You okay, Rachel?" he asked, his voice a little softer than before. I turned, meeting his gaze. He had paused mid-reach, and there was something curious in his expression, like he'd noticed the air had shifted too. "Yeah, just thinking," I replied, brushing hair behind my ear. "Almost done here," he said, returning to the hinge. I nodded, though he wasn't looking. My heart was starting to race. It was ridiculous, he was just helping with a cabinet. There was no reason to feel this stirred, this aware of every movement he made, every breath he took. But then he looked up again, locking eyes with me, and there was a flicker, an unmistakable tension between us that neither of us could ignore. I don't know what came over me in that moment. Maybe it was the way the sunlight hit his face, casting soft shadows over his cheekbones. Maybe it was the fact that I hadn't been really looked at in so long. Or maybe it was just that I was tired of holding back. "Do you want something to drink?" I asked, my voice unusually steady. "Sure," he said, standing up and wiping his hands on his jeans. "Water's good." I led him inside, grabbing a glass from the cupboard and handing it to him. He leaned on the kitchen counter, sipping slowly. I watched him over the rim of my coffee mug, every second stretching long and strange between us. When he set the glass down, our eyes met again, and this time, neither of us looked away. "You sure you're okay?" he asked again, more gently this time. "I'm not," I whispered. I didn't mean to say it, not like that, not so openly. But the words hung there, naked and raw, impossible to take back. He stepped closer, just a few inches, but it felt like the room had tilted. "Do you want to talk about it?" "I don't know what I want," I replied honestly. "I just know I'm tired of feeling invisible." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. It was a small gesture, but it undid me. His touch was warm, careful. "You're not invisible," he said. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe we both did. but the space between us vanished, and for a moment, I forgot everything else. His lips touched mine softly, without urgency, like he was giving me a chance to pull away. I didn't. I kissed him back. It wasn't wild or reckless. It was something else, something tender and restrained, like we were both holding back a storm. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathing harder, and so was he. He looked at me with this unsure but open expression. "Should I go?" he asked. I shook my head.
No.
"I don't want you to." We sat on the couch, the tools forgotten. I told him things I hadn't said to anyone in years, about feeling lonely even when surrounded by people, about how being strong all the time had worn me down. He listened, not interrupting, just nodding at the right moments, offering his presence as comfort. I found myself leaning into him, resting my head on his shoulder. It felt safe. Grounding. "I didn't expect this," he said after a while, his voice barely above a whisper. "Neither did I replied. "But I don't want to pretend like it didn't happen." He turned his head slightly, his breath brushing against my forehead. "I'm not trying to take advantage. I care. I noticed you even when I was younger. I never said anything because I didn't think it was my place." I looked up at him. "You were just a kid then." "Not anymore," he said, his voice steadier now. There was something about his calmness that disarmed me. It wasn't lust. It wasn't some fantasy playing out. It was real. He didn't push or rush. He just stayed. We talked until the sky darkened outside, the light fading into the blue shadows of early evening. He eventually got up to leave, brushing his thumb gently across the back of my hand before he walked out. That night, I lay awake in bed, turning over every detail in my mind. It would have been easier to pretend it never happened, to chalk it up to a moment of weakness or confusion. But the truth is, it wasn't either. It was real. It was needed. And it opened something inside me I hadn't felt in years. The next morning, I found a message on my phone. "If you ever need help with anything else, I'm around. Just say the word." I smiled, my fingers hovering over the keys for a moment before replying. "I do. And I will." Things didn't get complicated right away. We kept it simple, friendly, respectful. But every time he came over, the space between us held that same quiet tension. Eventually, we let it unfold. Slowly, carefully. It wasn't just about what we shared physically. It was about being seen, being chosen, being cared for. I know what some people would say. I know the judgments that would follow if they found out. But I also know what it's like to live half alive, waiting for permission to feel something again. Caleb didn't just fix a hinge that afternoon. He reminded me that I was still here, that I still mattered.